Good morning, viewers and listeners. You are live. The date is 7/10/2021, and this is the State of Football Show, your new home for real football talks in the morning, partnered with Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated via the NFL Draft Bible. I am your host, Big Law, and if Virginia is for lovers, then the State of Football is for interviews on Fridays. This is show number 287. Let me give you the energy and what the number 287 means. The numerology energy represented by the number 287 resonates as an organization, an efficient organization expressing itself as a business. The energy has a natural, diplomatic, and intuitive resonance. To visualize 287 energy, considered an entrepreneur who is a whiz with organizing and doing business. They incorporate the others and accomplish specific business goals. Disagreements are resolved with diplomacy. The person who uses intuition and scientific approach when analyzing situations for improvement or correcting. So, wow, that sounds like that was a boss statement. Was what the number 287 represents. This is the second season of the State of Football. This is show number 20. We can't stop, don't stop, won't stop. To catch up with us, guys, go to our website at www.si.com/NFL/draft. Catch us on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook. Just look for NFL Draft Bible, any of those platforms, you'll catch us. And like I said this before, we're always here to educate you and entertain you. I got two guests today. I got also a co-host. My buddy's coming back, and he's going to be here riding with us from time to time on the State of Football on Fridays, maybe Saturdays too. You know, I don't know what his schedule is because his son is a top player for the University of North Carolina, but definitely on Fridays. You guys remember my guy Deon Glover. He will be here with us, and we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of we'll talk a little bit about what's going on with UNC, but also he's just gonna get his feet wet and kind of gonna jump in and speak about what's going on, you know, in his world and some of his endeavors when it comes to that. We'll just kind of call him the El Capitan, Deon Glover. So also, but as far as guest goes, we got Jacquie Franciulli coming in. She's from Yahoo 247 Sports, and also we got Patricia. Make sure I say this right. Traina. She is the SI reporter for the New York Giants. So that's going to be an absolute treat as well, being that the NFL has just kicked off and it was off the charts last night. If you had an opportunity to check that game out. Before I go any further, though, let me bring in my brother Deon Glover. Let me get him in here. What's going on? What's up, El Capitan?
Big Law, what's going on, baby? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I am good, everyone. This is Deon Glover, coach, motivational speaker, El Capitan, father of Tony Grimes. What's going on? I'm glad to have you here, man. Thank you for coming on at such short notice, you know, and I know that we're trying to get you on a little bit more regularly, but thanks for jumping in.
No, man, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be back. You guys are incredible. Thanks for the invitation. I welcome it. Look forward to it. I'm excited to do it. Anything for you, man. Anything for you.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate it. So, you know, we got some guests coming up, and we'll speak with some guests. But before we go any further, I'd be remiss if I did not, and we did not speak about, you know, what tomorrow is. Tomorrow is the anniversary. I hate to use the word anniversary when we talk about that, but that's what they say about it, of 9/11. Yeah. And, you know, it was so devastating. It's still devastating to this day.
Yes.
We have first responders that are still struggling with symptoms. We've lost a lot of people.
Yes.
You know, not to mention from 9/11, but then, you know, people have been dying from cancer and other, you know, diseases and illnesses from working, you know, and saving other people, man. I mean,
that's right.
You being a resident New Yorker, growing up in New York, you know, give me your, your commentary on that, Deon.
Well, I mean, when it happened, it was horrific. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, I grew up going to, visit the World Trade Center every year. You know, it was just to see it go down and to see so many people lose their lives, and even first responders, going to save lives and then lose their lives. And then now, several years later, over decades later, you got, they're still suffering. Families are still suffering. I'm not even sure if anything was done to help facilitate, what I'm saying, the healing of that with the first responders. But my heart go out to those who lost their lives and the first responders who are still suffering from that incident.
Absolutely. And, we just, so sometimes, in our world, sports is almost everything, but it's not everything. Sometimes you got to
Right.
step back, and pay homage and recognize,
That's right.
what are some things that are more important in life. And that's definitely something that was, that was tragic. And we got to do what we can as a society to help those who are still suffering, get through what's going on.
That's right. That's right.
But this is the state of football. Big Law, Deon Glover here. Deon's gonna co-host here with me a little bit. How do you feel, man? You got wobbly legs. How you feeling, man?
Man, I got my sea legs.
Okay. Well, we know you got sea legs.
Look, El Capitan. You know what I'm saying? I got a little seasick the first time, but I got my sea legs underneath me today.
Okay.
So
All right.
I'm ready to rock.
Okay, awesome.
Look, and you the pilot, so you know what I'm saying? I can't go wrong with you staying the ship.
First man, got the first mate here. We got Deon as the first mate. So let's talk about a little bit of a rocky boat. Of course, you guys see that we are ACC heavy. I have on, I'm UVA. He's UNC. These are, I cover UVA football for multiple brands and this one as well. We're going to have somebody on. Jacquie covers UVA, but we also have Deon on as well. Deon is a father of Tony Grimes, who is 5-star starting cornerback for the team and insider. So let's talk about the game from last week, with Virginia Tech, which was probably a top 5 game from that week as well, as spirited and as competitive as it was. And I think, the number 10 team, which was UNC at the time, got really surprised by what Virginia Tech brought to the table. What was going on? Were you actually there,
Yes.
for the game? Okay. All right. Fill me in, because that atmosphere, I'm going to have to give it to Virginia Tech. They know how to fill out a stadium. They know how to put out a presentation. And, when they start playing the Sandman, the people go crazy. The players come out fired up. They have one of the top entrances of all college football. And you being there at that moment, tell me what the heck happened, and what you felt.
Well, going to Lane Stadium anyway, I've been there like 8-9 times, and I knew what the atmosphere was going to be like. But now, we didn't have fans last year. So, the fans coming out this year able at full capacity, I knew it was going to be a challenge, but I didn't know it was going to be that bad. It's the loudest I've ever heard it at Lane Stadium. It was unreal. You know what I'm saying? And Virginia Tech is no slouch. Everybody knows that. They're a power in the ACC. They go to a bowl game almost every year they do. And they got great players and they got great coaches. And it was a rough game for us out the gate. I really didn't like the game out the gate. Most people play tune-up games. They play an FCS opponent. You know what I'm saying? Even in the SEC, you see it a lot. Bama does it. You know what I'm saying? And we had a hard one out the gate in Blacksburg, in Lane Stadium. And that posed a great challenge for us. We didn't have our playmakers from last year. You know what I'm saying? Johnny Brown and Des Newsom. That showed up, you know what I'm saying? Because we like to go deep. You know what I'm saying? We got the best quarterback in college football, and we like to go deep. And we didn't have those deep threats that we can just come out and just go. And me personally, I was hoping we came out and kind of got into a rhythm with our new receivers, with Josh Downs and Chaffee Brown and Emory Simmons and those guys, and kind of, 3-5 yards and let them do the rest and get into a rhythm and then hit them deep later on. I think the game would have been a little bit different. Virginia Tech D-line, it was savage. You know what I'm saying? It was. Them guys, they really played. The DBs was on point. And I think you gotta take the D-line out of the game by throwing short passes. And that's what Josh Downs actually scored on that play on the bubble screen, I think. But But you take the D line out the game, you get the ball out of Sam's hands fast, and then you work your way into a rhythm. The defense, we made an adjustment in the second half, and I think we gave up 68 yards and 3 points. The defense played really, really well in the second half, extremely well. And people got to remember, that's the same team that played Texas A&M, the same defensive team that played Texas A&M last year in the Orange Bowl. So I think we're going to be fine, man. I think it was just, it was one of those things where it just caught us off guard. Now, this week, we got Georgia State, for our first home game. People are not happy, but it's a home game, and it'll help tune us up and fix the things that were wrong.
If you told me that North Carolina's their defense was only going to give up 17 points and lose, I would have took that bet all day. I said, yes, sign me up for that. I said, they only gave up 17 points and they lose. I said, yes, sign me up. But it was eye-opening to see. I don't know if, like you said, some of the outside threats aren't there. Not to mention you lost 2 professional pro running backs, NFL running backs.
That's right.
As well. I mean, who's running the ball? They have been known as such a good running back-oriented team under Mac Jones. Who's going to run the ball, for these guys?
We do have great backs. We got Ty Chandler. I think Ty is a preseason All-American. We got Caleb Hood, he's a true freshman, who's also dynamic. And those guys can run, you know what I'm saying? And we didn't run as much as we should have, we went straight past, and we ran a little here and there, but that's, we didn't execute UNC football, you know what I'm saying? Where we split it up. Not many teams can say that their receivers and their running backs, both receivers, both running backs has over 1,000 yards. And you do that by executing and sticking to your plan. You know what I'm saying? But I'm confident we going, that's a great tune-up game.
Oh yeah.
We gonna plug it in.
Yes, it was absolutely an incredible tune-up game. It's just, hopefully when you play games like that, any game, you don't want any injuries, and look like you guys got out of the game without any major injuries. So, we're going to see, of course. I'm excited to see where the rest of everybody goes. But let's do this. Looks like we may have our first guest ready. When we're ready, we're going to bring her on. Hey, there she is. What's going on, Jacquie?
There she is.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Hey, Jacquie.
Good morning. Yes,
Good morning.
everybody. This is absolutely. Pronounce your name for me so that I will not butcher it anymore. Franciulli?
Sure. It's Jacquie Franciulli.
Okay, I said it right. Okay, Jacquie Franciulli.
Right.
And it's odd because I've been knowing Jacquie for, what are we on? 6 years now? 5 years?
Probably closer to 7-8 years. Yeah. The first time I covered UVA.
Yes. And Jacquie is one of the top reporters in the press box at University of Virginia for 247 Yahoo 247 Sports field reporter. Jacquie, kind of give us a background of who you are and sort of public knows who you are and what we're talking about.
Sure. So yeah, like you said, I cover University of Virginia for 247 Sports. I actually started off my career covering UVA right out of college. I graduated from University of Miami. Please don't hate me, UVA fans. So I graduated from Miami, and my first job was in Charlottesville. I got my feet wet covering recruiting, knowing about the 757 and knowing, covering recruiting for probably like 3 years. And then for Scout, and then I moved over to Florida Gators. So I covered the Gators for a little while in the SEC. And then I think I did that for about 6 years. And then now I'm back to covering UVA for 24/7. I'm taking over the site over Jamie Oakes, who's a legend in the Virginia sports.
Yes, he is.
Area. So he kind of left 247 Sports, and he actually called me, asked me if I wanted to take over. And I said, sure. Yeah, I would love to come back to Virginia. My husband's family's from Virginia. We now have 2 kids. So it'll be nice to be closer to family. So now I'm back in Charlottesville, but I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. So it's nice being back to UVA, not being a green reporter, scared to doing things and being so angry.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
so it's nice being back, not being that green, 23-year-old, not wanting to get all the coaching staffs angry for all my questions. But yeah, now it's nice. After covering SEC football, that is a monster. So
Yeah.
covering ACC football, it's a nice change of pace.
Well, I know when you and I met, like 8 years ago, I guess. This is my ninth season, I guess, and
Yeah.
and we had met, and it was like, I said, wow, I said, you know, the landscape, and I was green as well, just trying to understand how things were at UVA, and I was just kind of figuring, you know, you and I would chop it up, you and I would talk, and just I would talk about the recruits because of our 757 Academy, and you would ask me questions, and it was just a really cool vibe that we had in a working relationship we had in the press box. And I just think that you coming back, I think is great for the brand. I think it's great for you to be here, back with us, and just thank you for coming on for the show this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's exciting. You guys are my first guest appearance covering UVA, so I'll remember this.
Absolutely. Well, what I'd like to do is possibly, get you on. We're kind of the same thing, but I like to get you on to get your opinion. And if you want to come on from week to week sometime, and just give us your opinion of the UVA rundown for certain games, we'd love to have you on for the season.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I would love to do that. I love stating my opinion. You can ask my husband.
Understood. So yeah, Deon, what did you have anything you wanted to ask Jacquie
Yeah,
before we get
I'm
into some more
curious.
questions?
Jacquie been around she's been around a little bit. She moved around a little bit. I want to ask you this: fandom is very powerful. I mean, it really is. It's like once you're working with somebody or covering somebody, it seems like their whole brand just takes you over. So how did you make the transition? You know what I'm saying? Coming back to UVA, was that easy for you to kind of let go, the others that you were covering?
Yeah, so I think because I started off in local sports television, so I covered a lot of high school kids and their games, and then when I covered UVA first time around, I also covered a lot of recruiting. So by the time I finished, like maybe my third, fourth year of covering sports, I wasn't covering teams as much as individual players. So you really only get connected to the players because even if a kid chooses a school that end up covering, I'm still following their career. And there's also times where I'm still talking to their parents. I'm still talking to these kids. Well, now they're men now, now I feel old. Some of these kids already, have, kids of their own. And, so you kind of let go of that fandom, I guess. People tell me all the time, like, how did you feel about University of Miami, completely losing to Alabama? I was like, you know what? I'm not really a fan anymore, I guess. I'm more of a fan of the individuals that are out there. I remember covering Levante Taylor, for instance.
Hey.
He had a UVA offer, and he chose to go to Florida State. And as a Miami grad, I should hate Florida State, but every time he did something great, I'm like, yes, go on Levante Taylor or Derek Nottie. I'm like, go on Derek Nottie.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. I want you to win the championship. So that's what usually ends up happening. Is you're cheering for all these kids that because a lot of times, like, for example, I talked to Ari Watford last night about his UVA offer. He's only a freshman. I'm going to be talking to him for the next 4 years. So I don't care where he ends up going to college, but I'm going to get to know him. I'm going to know his parents. I'm probably going to, if he has any siblings, I'm going to get to know his siblings. So at the end of the day, that's what generally happens. There's a kid now at Jackson State, James Houston. He chose to play for Florida. I covered him as a recruit and for 3 years at Florida. Now he's at Jackson State, and now he had a great game over the weekend. And I texted his mom and said, I saw James. That's so fantastic. So that's how I don't get kind of embroiled in that fandom. Don't get me wrong. I love the whole covering the Florida Gators. That fandom is crazy. I loved it. It was fantastic. Their Twitter, I always used to joke, wait, what drama has Gators Twitter got into today? Fantastic. And the same goes for UVA a little bit. UVA their basketball Twitter can be kind of insane. Although on the game day, I realized UVA Twitter can be really insane when it comes to Coach and I. So it's going to be interesting to see how UVA Twitter handles that. But I love all that part of it. But at the end of the day, and I root for the kids. I root for the guys. I root for what they're doing, because at the end, after talking to them for 4 or 5 years, you just want them to do well. They're there
That's right.
to further their career, go to the NFL. So that's what I'm cheering for.
That's right. Well, I'm gonna tell you something, Jackie. We're gonna be tight. We're gonna be close. I know you may have covered my son, Tony Grimes.
I did.
Yep.
And Aaron, remember Aaron Glover?
Yeah, Aaron Glover. Yep, Aaron Glover. You may have covered him as well. It was Jamie
Yeah.
Oaks. It was his heyday. But you covering some of my guys now. Zach Rice, probably George Pettaway.
I'm actually going to Zach's game tonight.
Huh?
Yeah, I'll be at Zach's game tonight.
Yeah. That's my guy. And George Pettaway, and we got some other guys here from the 7-5. You probably covered Tyson Chapman, Tayon Holloway. Did you cover Bryson Jennings?
Yes.
We gonna be tight because I'm gonna plug you into all the big time.
Look at that, Jackie getting in.
We're gonna be tight. We got some guys coming up that UVA is on hard.
Getting back in. Look at Jackie.
Yeah. We got Kalen Brody.
The first thing I do when I came back to UVA, the first time, when's my first weekend trip to go to 7-on-7 to catch some games? That's always my first thing that I circle on my calendar.
Let's go.
When 7-on-7 season starts, I think my husband, when we first covering UVA, he looks at his calendar. Is like, I'm not seeing you for like March and April. I'm like, nope, I'm covering 7-on-7.
Awesome.
Nice. We got Asad Brown. You're gonna love him. We got some good guys.
Okay.
Well, before we get into
UVA is already starting to offer a lot of these guys.
They have offered all of them.
Absolutely. Before we get into the game tomorrow, let me get your opinion on the game last week, Jackie, as we were talking and watching that William and Mary game. Give me your opinion of the game and what you saw.
So I'm always hesitant to establish an opinion after an FCS opponent. You're going to look good. But I will say, shutting out any team in college football is hard. So I want to say the defense looked better because, it's hard to shut out a team. You can, I'm going to go back to Florida. They didn't shut out their opponent. So when you look at it, I think their defense certainly improved. I actually have Nick Jackson as my preseason MVP. I picked him because I think he's going to be one that you're going to look out for. I think he's an excellent linebacker, and I think he put a lot of pressure on the quarterback early on. He's fired up to play. I think he's going to be one to watch. I like the fact that it didn't seem like the secondary had any miscommunication issues. That was something when I was watching back from last year's season. That's something that I pinpointed in the secondary. And I understand they had depth concerns and injuries last year. But when you look in that secondary, a lot of the mistakes that happened last year was because people were out of position and there were some communication issues. When you think of the veterans that were returning, you want to say that they're not going to have that. William Mary, to be fair, didn't test that secondary. Now, this week, Illinois will test that secondary. So, especially with a guy like Isaiah Williams and his speedy at wideout. So, I want to see how they handle him. So, defensively, I want to say they look better. I would want them to get more sacks against William and Mary, but they did look a little better. Offensively, the play calling was a little. We were talking in the press box. I'm like, you're playing too cute. So if they play too cute against a better opponent, that's dangerous because then you're going to play from behind, which means you put Brennan Armstrong in a situation where, to be fair, he wasn't really good at last year. He's a very emotional guy, a very emotional quarterback. He's trying to temper that down because you want an emotional quarterback, but at the same time, you don't want an over emotional quarterback where, they don't go through their reads. Armstrong did a good job against William and Mary, going through his progressions very well. If he didn't have his first or second read, he didn't panic. You can tell that he didn't panic. He was staying in the pocket a little bit better. He had better pocket presence compared to what I saw last year. So I could see the offense have some improvement. I just wish we saw more running backs. I really want to see I want to see Hollins. I really want to see Devin Darrington. I keep hearing from people within the program saying that Devin Darrington is a good running back, that he's probably going to have more reps than you think. He's a very efficient runner. He is. He's an efficient runner. He's a guy that sees a hole and he goes for it. There's no jukes here and there. He's a north runner. He's gonna see a hole and go for it. And that's what UVA needs. They need to establish that ground game if they want to do anything in the ACC Coastal. So we didn't see that. I think it was over 60% of their runs were done by quarterbacks. And I get it. UVA wants to play those quarterbacks. Bronco Mendenhall even mentioned it this week that they think that, if they have quarterbacks and they know the offense best, they have probably the best mindset to play early. Sure. If you have that and you want to have football players, Keaton Thompson is a football player, Jacob Rodriguez is a football player. Sure. I like that. I covered a football player, I guess, in the Gators for Kadarius Toney. He was their gadget player, football player. That's great. You want to have those multi-position athletes. They make or break sometimes. I remember seeing Toney sometimes win the game for you in one of those, a play that he could have lost 10 yards. He ended up getting 60 yards. But at the same time, any team needs to establish the run. And you need to have those backs, especially when you have one of the deepest rosters.
Five of them. Five guys.
So I feel like that's something that I still need to see from UVA to make any sort of, prediction, or because at the end of the day, what we saw at William & Mary was very vanilla. And I understand why it was very vanilla. So when we have UNC, not this weekend, next weekend, that's really when you're really going to see how this UVA team is moving forward or not. That there's a lot of hype around this UVA offense. I'm not quite sold yet. Yes, they had great numbers against William & Mary, but I'm on the edge here. I need to see a little bit more.
Well, we're going to have to run it back, next week with the same two of you, because UVA and UNC go right back at it, so we may have to run a quick segment with you guys next week, with this game. So we're going to talk about that. So speaking of, not being too optimistic, wanting to be real about, what this team is, it all starts with the quarterback. So what are your expectations, for Brennan Armstrong, the second-year quarterback for UVA?
So, watching back last year's film, I felt like he had all the skills necessary to be a good guy under center for UVA. I thought, I thought he was a lot of stuff from last year, not just UVA, a lot of college teams really suffered because of COVID. I think when he was coming in new as a new starter, and trying to get chemistry with his offense, and he didn't have that spring, because the most important part of a quarterback's development is between spring ball and fall camp. That is the most important part of development for a quarterback. And he did not have that. He had no ability to throw to his wide receivers. So he was kind of learning as he went last year. And trying to get that chemistry, learning how his wideouts work, learning in the offensive line, learning how Brennan Armstrong is. So a lot of stuff was learning as you go. You're kind of learning by fire. So at least this year he has all that behind him, and he has the ability to develop during that spring and fall part. I think he would be very good. Again, it's all about the emotions. If he can control that, I'm going to compare it to the Gators because that's just the team I was here before. So they had Felipe Franks and Kyle Trask. Felipe Franks was a very emotional quarterback, and you could kind of he would throw a bad throw, interception, and things would spiral out of control for a bit. That then by the second year that he was playing, that started to reel in, and he was doing a little bit better. On the other hand, Kyle Trask is a cold-blooded killer. He wouldn't show you any emotion whatsoever, and you saw how well he did. And he would show emotion here and there, but he was very if an error happened, he wouldn't let that derail his team. And I think Brennan Armstrong needs to kind of go. Pressure will know a little bit more how he handles that. But I think he has a lot of potential. Obviously, his numbers are great. If you look at it this year, his numbers are in control. I think he can do really well for UVA. And if he can get some support in the run game, because at the end of the day, you don't want your quarterback to be the guy who does all your legwork. You want him to have at least a couple of rests so he doesn't get a concussion like last year. He doesn't get hurt, because what happens if Brennan Armstrong gets hurt? Who are you going to put that under center a second?
Well, I can tell you this. You got a point with that. And every time you watch him run, you always kind of hold your breath, because he runs like he's a fullback. And, he's just, I guess he's just learning to protect himself. He's learning to slide. Good thing about it, which UVA has never really had, is they have depth. at all positions. I really have to say Bronco has done a good job of getting depth all over the roster. And, and we'll see how this all shakes out. But before we get into your preview of the game against Illinois, what's your prediction for the record for this team?
Oh, man, you put me on the spot. So if I go by percentages of like what I think, if their likelihood of their winning, if I go game by game, I could see a 6-7 win season. But UVA has a knack of winning games they shouldn't. I remember because they beat Miami in the Orange Bowl for the last game of the season. I was there as a student, and I hated UVA back then. So I could see them, and don't hate me, I can see them beating UNC or Miami. Okay. I can see them beating BYU, just because when you look at this team on paper, like a lot of this is on paper. I need to see this, but on paper, when you bring a veteran offense back, when you have so many veteran leadership on the defense, and not just veteran leadership, but they develop these guys into good athletes. They develop these guys into good guys in their positions. You want to give them the benefit of the doubt in some of those games where some of these teams do not have those veterans on those sides of the ball, or still trying to figure themselves out. So I could see, with the schedule, I could see UVA going 6-7 wins, or I can see them winning 8-9 and possibly competing for the ACC Coastal. Especially the way the Coastal played in the first week.
Yes, it wasn't good.
Especially like when I look at Miami. See, Miami is one of those teams where they get all that talent, but do they develop the talent? Do they have the discipline on the field? Right. Those are the things that I would put on UVA's side. Because that's what Bronco Bennett Hall does. That's the one thing of games where you don't get penalties, and you don't extend drives for your opposition. Those little things will win you those games that are close in the ACC Coastal, which are notorious for. So when you're playing against Miami will give you some yardage, dude, because of their lack of discipline. So when you look at that, you can say, I can see UVA beating Miami. You just kind of are on the edge because it's at Miami. But that's what this is a very hard team to kind of pinpoint, because again, we only see William Mary, but it could be a mess of a season and only 6 wins, or we can be talking to them about them almost beating, they could be on the road to ACC Coastal.
Absolutely. Jacquie, the star Franciulli, man. I tell you, Jacquie is an animal. She is on it.
Yes,
Deon,
she
anything
is.
you want to talk to Jacquie about before we get into the preview for the Illinois game?
No.
All right.
I love it.
So let's do this, Jacquie. You and I, we will 11 o'clock. We'll be in the press box. We got to kick off there. In Charlottesville, in Scott Stadium, on the grounds. Give me your preview of the Illinois game against UVA tomorrow.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see this game for a lot of reasons. One, it's against a Big Ten team, so we're actually going to see no disrespect to William Mary. I love, Cole Blackman's on that team. I covered him as a recruit. I love covering Mike London's team when I was at UVA. Mike London's a great guy, but William Mary does not have the talent to keep up with UVA. So I'm interested to see how they handle Illinois. And like I said, their secondary will be tested. They actually have the kind of the same mentality Bronco Mendenhall did, where they moved Isaiah Williams, who was a quarterback, to wide receiver. And he's going to be an interesting threat for the secondary. Just watching a little bit of him, he's so quick. So I'm really interested to see how they handle him. Illinois is having some injury issues as well with a couple other wide receivers. They're transferred from Notre Dame. Jafar Armstrong, I don't know if he's going to play. He was questionable. But he's another threat that the secondary will have to control. And they also run a 2 tight end system. So, and they're really good at running the ball. So this is when we're really going to see how, Nick Jackson, Noah Taylor, and all those guys are handled. Obviously, we were talking about all the linebackers that left, all the veterans that left. So this is going to be a good test for them. Offensively, if the defense can't control Illinois, this could kind of get into a shootout territory here and there. And can UVA keep up and then kind of pull away? Because I don't think Illinois has enough to keep it going to the second half, just because they do have some depth concerns in certain positions because of injuries, and just because they didn't have enough time to kind of build that depth. Obviously, he's in his first season. So I want to say UVA could win by 2 touchdowns at the end of the day. I think UVA has enough in there to do that. It'll be a good test for them. And I really just want, again, I'm going to be pushing this. I want to see that run game. I want to see a run game. Sorry, I need to put an asterisk on this. I want to see a run game by running backs. I want to see how they use those guys.
That's right.
When you're hosting a running back recruit like Claiborne, the Wake Forest pledge last weekend, if you're a running back looking at UVA right now, you're like, will I actually run the ball? So exactly. I do want to see them use the running backs. I'm not going to go and argue if, like, is the play calling great or not. I'm just saying that if you want to win the AC Coastal, yes, you can have the quarterbacks, but at the end of the day, there was one problem when I covered the Florida Gators when they were kind of doing a 2-quarterback system between Emory Jones and Kyle Trask. When Emory Jones came in, of course they're going to run the ball. That was obvious. Talent would sometimes watch and say, oh, I know Emory Jones is going to run the ball. So when you look at UVA, when you look at, Jacob Rodriguez or is in the game or Armstead's in the game, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to run the ball. So you can work bringing those running backs and just, controlling the clock. There's some games that you're just going to have to control the clock. They're going to have to keep possession so that you can win the game. So that's where I want to see against Illinois.
Okay. Yeah. So question as well about you talking about the Big Ten and about the ACC and the Pac-12.
The Alliance.
The Alliance. Now, I want your opinion on this and where you think this is going, because this is, huge. This is a universal question. You got
major.
The SEC shaking everything up, the Big 12 shaking everything up, and the other big three are like, look, man, you guys are just not going to walk all over us just because you're the SEC and you can pull and take what you want. What is your opinion on this potential alliance, and where do you think it's going to go, and where will it end?
It's very much needed. I'm coming from covering the SEC, and that is a powerhouse. Just covering the SEC and their fandom, and I will have to give credit to Greg Sankey. That man is ahead of the game, maybe 2 or 3 steps. He's got this all planned out years in advance. He's a very smart individual. I think it's hilarious that they're called the Alliance, because all I can think of is the SEC's the evil empire in Star Wars, and these are the Rebel Alliance, and they're trying to make sure that Darth Vader and Palpatine doesn't take over.
That's right.
I think it is much needed, because if you look at the ACC schools, and there's a lot of academic institution in the ACC and the Pac-12 and Big Ten. And when you have academic institutions, you also have to deal with admissions issues when it comes to recruiting. So a school like Virginia, schools like UNC and Duke and Stanford, they don't really, they can't afford to recruit geographically. Where, before, during the Mike Lennon era, he would try to stay in state, or maybe in North Carolina, South Carolina, just a bit, but you kind of stick to that area. A lot of kids might not come. What Bronco Mendenhall did is he became a national recruiter, which was very smart, because when you're dealing with a school, like, for example, Notre Dame has done this for years. When you're dealing with a school that's academics and football, and their admission process is really hard, you're not going to be able to keep its focus just on in-state. You're going to want to go to South Florida and go to Gulliver Prep, like Miami has, like UVA has done. So when you bring in the Pac-12 and the Big Ten on board, you're going to help recruiting, because not only are you going to be in the TV markets in the ACC region, you're going to be in the TV markets in Pac-12 and Big Ten. So this is going to be huge financial ramifications, but recruiting is going to be huge for them, especially with name, image, and likeness. This is more chances for them to be on the TV screens in other TV markets around the country. So if UVA goes into, California and offers a kid, when I call them up, they're not going to tell me I don't know who UVA is. Who is UVA? They're not going to do that, because they've already been watching them. Because I will tell you, that's something I hear a lot from recruits. This is, if they recruit someone that's not from the state of Virginia or Maryland, or is not, for example, in Utah, they all know Bronco Mendenhall. So it's they might not know UVA, but they'll know Bronco Mendenhall.
That's a blessing in disguise.
That's right.
That he actually is from, the West Coast.
Yes. So a lot of the West Coast kids might know Bennett Hall during his time for BYU, but they don't really watch UVA. This will allow UVA to put their, mark on those TV markets, UNC on those TV markets. So then your recruiting pool just tripled. So this will really help the ACC down the road, as well as the Big Ten and Pac-12. And honestly, I'm just excited. This is potentially for UVA and Maryland to play against each other again, because when I covered UVA, there was only 1 year that I saw them play against each other before they left for the Big Ten. So that's a good rivalry to have back.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. So right along with that, Jackie, we got to go off script now. We're going to get into some rapid fire questions, non-football related. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
She's ready.
All right. All right.
Ready.
What's your favorite home cooked meal?
Ooh, black beans and rice.
Wow. Okay. Black beans and rice. Okay.
My mom's from Brazil, so.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right. What are your hidden talents no one knows about?
I play the piano.
Really? Okay. All right. If you had $100K to give to a charity, what would it be?
The Junior Diabetes Research Foundation.
Wow. Okay. All right. I got another one for you. Who has been the most influential person, not your parents, in your life?
Oof. Oh my gosh, that's actually really hard. I would say, does it have to be I would say right now will be my 4-year-old son. Because he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in March. So he's a little warrior. He was 3 years old when he was diagnosed. Okay. He's 4 in August. And he takes his shots like a pro. And he actually, this morning, right before we dropped off on pre-K, he checked his own blood. He injected his finger and checked his own blood. So I would say he's my biggest influence. Okay.
All right. In your movie, who would play Jacquie Franciulli?
Oh my goodness. Jennifer Lawrence.
I love it. Jennifer Lawrence. That's awesome. And also, if you had to identify with a superhero or a supervillain, who would it be?
Oh man. Superhero. One of my favorite villains growing up was Maleficent. So, but I don't know if I would curse a baby because I didn't get invited to a birthday party. Superhero. My superhero growing up, I always loved was Spider-Man. So that.
Okay.
I love Spider-Man. He was a normal kid, so I kind of like that idea.
Okay. Very cool. You got any shout outs or anything in closing?
No, just if you're a UVA fan, just come on Wahoo's 24/7. We're a great message board community to vent about all your play calling issues on Saturdays. And what I try to do at 24/7, not only do I provide recruiting insights and we do our we'll have interviews of players and all that stuff, but we also get to know these guys off the field. I like having features so the players and know they're human rather than just their stat sheet. So, get to know them, get to know their personalities, get to know who made them. We talk to parents too, so that you can understand how, Nick Jackson became Nick Jackson. So that's something that I hope to bring more to 24/7 Sports on to covering UVA.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Jackie.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we're going to make you a regular staple here for this season and check up with you from time to time on some important games coming up for the Wahoos.
I know one important game coming up.
Oh, yeah. Less than about 2 weeks here. But thank you for coming on.
Big one.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Jackie.
See you.
That is Jacquie Franciulli, 247 Sports Yahoo.
She was awesome.
Field reporter, yes. And before we go any further, let's go ahead and jump right on. What's going on, CT Smith? What's going on? All my folks in the chat room. Tom Goodhines, there he is. That's my guy from the Hub Sports. But we got our next guest available. Let's bring on Patricia.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Patricia,
Hello,
how are
Patricia.
you?
I'm great.
Is it Traina?
Traina.
Traina, okay. Patricia Traina she's a sports editor for the Giant Sports Illustrated, GiantsCountry.com, right?
Yes.
All right. Love to have you this morning. Thank you for jumping on. And you got a resident New Yorker up here, Mr. Deon Glover.
Yes.
He's grew up in New York. And tell us about yourself. Kind of give us an idea of how you got into the industry and kind of what you do for Sports Illustrated New York Giants.
Yeah, so I've been covering the Giants for about 30 years now. I actually just put out my first book last year called The Big 50. You could probably see the poster in the background. That's the cover of my book. So I've been doing anything from features to X's and O's to analysis. I got into football because my dad, my late father, was a big Giant fan. He was a season ticket holder for a number of years. I want to say close to 50 years before he finally, retired and couldn't do it anymore. And I used to enjoy, on a Sunday, it was either watch football with him or watch whatever my mom happened to be watching on TV, which 9 times out of 10 was garbage and was of no interest to me. So I gravitated towards football, and I used to watch it with my dad when he was home. And, I just developed a love of the game, an appreciation for the game, a fascination for the game. And to this day, I still try to learn about it. I love covering the people. I love, watching game plans unfold and all that great stuff. So here I am.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning and taking some time out. Is there anything that you would like to ask Patricia before I jump in, Deon, and get started and get rolling?
Yeah. Patricia, it's interesting that you're on the show this morning and you've covered the Giants for 30 years. Did you know that Lawrence Taylor is going to be at UNC this Saturday?
I think I heard something about that.
Yes.
That wouldn't surprise me, though, given that he's an alum.
Yes. How did you feel about him?
He was amazing. Oh, my gosh. I don't think, it's funny. I hear coaches and fans say, oh, so-and-so is the next Lawrence Taylor. There's never, ever going to be another Lawrence Taylor. I'm sorry. No disrespect to anybody out there, but Lawrence Taylor is unique. He is one of a kind. They broke the mold when they made him. Yes. Don't tell me that, Aaron Donald or this guy or that guy is the next Lawrence Taylor. I'm not buying it.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. Incredible.
Yeah. So, being that the NFL season just kicked off last night, an incredible game between, the Cowboys and the Bucks. I think Cowboys showed out, a little better than what we thought. Of course, I'm being a Washington person and you being the Giants, looks like the division may be a little better, being that we may not have 13 quarterbacks play, in the division. I don't think we'll have that many this year playing. So I want to get your Giants perspective for the season and what you think the win-loss would be in a prediction for this team.
I tend to border on optimism. I mean, until I'm proven wrong otherwise. I think the Giants are going to win at least 8 games, maybe 9, which would be more than what they won last year. I think they're on they're rising. That said, obviously injuries factor in. I'm still curious to see how some of these guys who we didn't see all summer long, how they're deployed. Kenny Golladay, who we didn't see all summer long, Saquon Barkley, are they finally going to utilize him to the best of his ability? How are they going to utilize Kadarius Toney and Kyle Rudolph and Evan Ingram, who right now is dealing with an injury? What's going to change with his role? So I'm optimistic. I think that defense that they have is phenomenal. They're going to carry them. I think if they can get their special teams up to snuff, they're going to carry them too. The offense, though, I'm not going to lie, I have some question marks about them. Is Daniel Jones going to step up finally? So, but I'm optimistic. I think they're headed in the right direction. But having not seen the entire group play, I'm just going off of what I've seen in the summer and what I know to be true. And I'm hoping for the best.
Awesome. I can tell you this. I got my eyes on the Giants. That is my sleeper team for the NFC. I think a lot of people are overlooking the Giants right now, and I can really see the way that, like you said, the way they built the defense. You know, the young man they drafted, Aziz, out of Georgia. I think that the team is gonna, and Jabril Wilson, you know, the defensive back. I just see them making some strides and people overlooking them. And Saquon being healthy, they're a different team, in my opinion, on that.
Yeah, they're more confident. Year 2 in the same system, which is important. A lot of people overlook that. So big expectations. You know, they spent a lot of money in the offseason to upgrade the offense, to add some pieces to the defense. If everybody stays healthy and this team doesn't at least get to 500 with their 1-loss record, then this season will have been a colossal failure.
Okay, absolutely. So I got to talk to you about Michael Strahan, his jersey retirement. Let's get that in against the Eagles, of course. So fill us in on what's going on and what all that entails.
Yeah, so how about this for a fitting tribute? Michael Strahan, during his long Giants career, which was very, very rewarding, by the way, to cover. I mean, Strahan's an awesome person. Being retired, his jersey's being retired against the Eagles, the team against whom he had the most sacks in his career. I don't remember the number. I think it's something like, I want to say either 21 or 28, but I remember looking it up and saying, because, you know, I don't know if you remember the battles between Strahan and John Runyon back in the day were epic battles. I mean, they were like must see. And Strahan often won a lot of those battles. So yeah, I had the number on in that article that you're showing there, actually, how many sacks he has against them. I'm not sure if it's 21 or 28, something like that. But yeah, Strahan, look, when he retired after the Super Bowl in 2007, they never issued his jersey again to anybody. So in a way, they kind of retired it without officially retiring it. So it's nice to see that that's finally going to happen and be formalized, just as it is, you know, with Eli Manning's jersey retirement, which is going to take place earlier.
So why is this prop coming out, guys? What's happening right now?
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Oh wow.
Oh, that Eli.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So this was on Good Morning America. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to cut you off on that, but yeah, that's awesome. No, that's awesome that we, you know, that they're gonna retire his jersey. He deserves it.
Yes, he does.
And I think the number was 21.5.
Yeah, so I knew it was 21 or 28, something like that. So I couldn't remember the exact number, but I can tell you it's the most against any opponents he's faced. And, you know, naturally you would assume it would be against an NFC East team, but the Eagles, like I said, it just very fitting that that's the game they chose to do it against.
Yeah, so as I was saying that the Giants were being overlooked, question, you know, you've been out there, like you said, all summer, all spring, you've watched them. Is Saquon 100% this year coming up?
I think he is. I mean, I think it's positive that he has been he's been working and he hasn't had any setbacks, even though they've been increasing his workload every day. I am very optimistic that he plays on Sunday. I think he'll be on a pitch count, but I do think he's going to play. And if they can get him back to where he was before the injury, you know, his rookie form when he won Rookie of the Year, that offense is going to just be really lethal, I think, if everybody stays healthy, if Daniel Jones comes along, and if that offensive line, which is a big question mark, steps up and does what it needs to do.
And also, speaking of that offensive line, you know, what is your prediction? I mean, with that offensive line, I mean, do you think that they're going to be able to hold up?
Oh gosh, I hope so. I don't know. You know, look, I think Gates is solid at center. Will Hernandez, who a lot of people aren't talking about, which is a good thing. He had a phenomenal summer. He's probably the second best offensive lineman, arguably the first best, you could say. They have some injury issues at left guard, so I don't know if Shane Lemieux is going to play or if they're going to plug in this kid, Ben Bredesen, that they picked up on a trade. Andrew Thomas struggled, which was kind of alarming. And it looks like they're going to go with Nate Solder over Matt Parrott at right tackle. So I've got concerns about the tackle spot, especially going up against Bradley Chubb and Von Miller this weekend. I'm a little bit queasy about that.
And that's a perfect segue into your preview for the Broncos game that you guys are playing this weekend, the Giants. So give me a quick preview of the game you guys have this weekend against the Broncos.
Yeah, so I mean, the Broncos are loaded. They have an amazing group of skill position players. They have a great defensive secondary. They upgraded that defensive secondary, so that's going to make a nice matchup against the Giants skill position players. And I mentioned, the Broncos skill position players going up against the Giants defensive secondary, which is no slouch itself. So I think it's going to come down to the running game, to be honest with you. I think the Giants, for whatever reason, I think they struggled a little bit in the summertime. Now, granted, they were playing a rotation with guys and they didn't have their regular guys out there. But the run defense this summer was a little off, I thought. So if they can stop that Denver run and get to Teddy Bridgewater, pressure him, they're going to be able to do some nice things and maybe hold their own. And, look, the thing that I think that's going to happen with the Giants is that defense is going to have to really stuff the scoring of the opponents, at least until that offense picks up some continuity and just kind of gets confidence, if you will. Otherwise, it could be a long season if teams are scoring 25, 30 points. I don't know that the Giants offense just yet can keep up with that kind of scoring type of shootout. So it's going to be on the defense. I think they have the guys to do it. If they stay healthy, it's going to be competitive, and hopefully the results will be what everybody's looking for.
Awesome. We appreciate that preview. Now, you got to jump off here. If you don't, I got a couple questions I can ask you. But if you got to go, we appreciate you being on.
You can get them in. I still got a couple minutes.
All right. Well, I do a kind of a quick rapid fire questionnaire, for everyone, and it's your turn now.
Oh boy.
Let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Okay.
What is your favorite home cooked meal?
My favorite home cooked meal. Wow, I have so many. I'm going to say, because I'm Italian, I'm going to go with lasagna.
Oh, yes. Is it home? So do you make it, or is it grandma's or mom's recipe?
It's grandma's recipe, and my grandma came from Sicily, so it's authentic.
Oh, you may have to make us some and freeze dry it, send it down here.
I actually just used up the last of it in my refrigerator. My husband loves it.
I'm telling you, I'm about to say, these Southern boys, we love good eating. Believe me. So, what was the favorite thing you bought this year?
My favorite thing that I bought this season, you said?
This year. What is
this year?
Yes, ma'am.
Gosh, I didn't really spend a whole lot of money on myself, believe it or not. I guess a new laptop that I have yet to use, because I believe in beating my old ones up. Laptop, that's my lifeline here. So, I'm kind of boring. I didn't really spend a whole lot on myself, but I did invest in a new laptop. So.
Okay. All right. Very cool. What's left on your bucket list?
Left on my bucket list, I would love to go to Alaska.
Wow.
Yes.
I've been to Hawaii a couple of times. I've never been to Alaska. I would love to go.
I'm with you on that.
They say don't they call that the last frontier? Don't they call?
I think so. My neighbor went to Alaska, went on a cruise, and I saw the pictures, and I'm like, I got to go there one day.
Yeah, I would love to go to Alaska.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. That's a great call, Deon. So what is the worst job you've ever had?
Oh, wow. The worst job I ever had was I was an quote unquote administrative assistant, and I had to make coffee. And the bad part about it is I don't drink coffee, so I don't know how to make it. Mm-hmm. So I never got the formula right, the strength of the coffee right. And so I was like, at that point, I was like, why am I going to college to learn, to make coffee on a job? But look, you got to start somewhere. You got to start at the bottom. And, I used to get hollered at all the time. The coffee's too weak. It's too strong. I'm like, well, I don't drink the stuff. So how do you expect me to know how to make the darn stuff?
That's right. And last question, what superhero or supervillain do you assimilate to the most?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one.
Being you're a New Yorker, so superheroes or everything starts
Everywhere.
in New York. Yeah.
I want to pick a female. I really want to pick a female here, but I'm just trying to think. See, I'm not too familiar with the Marvel comics and all that stuff, but
Wonder
I don't
Woman.
want to say Wonder Woman, but I guess that would be close, because there are days where I'm just juggling multiple things. And at the end of the day, I look back and I say, my God, how the heck did I do all that stuff? So I guess I'll go with Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Awesome.
Wonder Woman.
Thank you so
Girl
much
power.
for your time. That's right. Absolutely. Is there anything you'd like to say in announcements or in closing, any shout outs?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on. This was a blast. And then I'd like to just invite everybody, check me out on Giants Country, which you've been seeing the little clips there. And also I host a Locked On Giants podcast. We are now on YouTube. So check out that channel. You can find us on Locked On Giants. So we're doing that 5 days a week. And, have guests. I had Sterling Shepard on today's show. So if you want to check that out, I've got an exclusive with him. And I've got plenty of good stuff coming down the pipe. So would appreciate a subscribe and a like for that YouTube channel if you decide to check it out.
Well, we thank you so much for hanging out with us, Patricia. And we look forward to having you back,
so much.
In this season, because I think it's going to be an interesting season in this NFC East.
Oh, absolutely. And again, guys, thank you so much for the smiles. That was a great way to start off my morning. I appreciate it. This was great. I have a great one, and hopefully we talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Take
Good luck
care.
this weekend. Absolutely. That is Patricia Traina from the New York Giants beat, and she does a great job of reporting on the Giants. And I tell you, it's gone so fast, man. She's like I said, the SI reporter for the Giants. Everything that we've done, Deon, is gone so quick, man. I mean,
I know.
What did you have to say? You got anything that you want to say about this last interview we just did, man?
No, man, it was powerful, man. I love the question about where do you think the conferences are going and the alignment, conference alignment. I said a couple of years ago that we were going to move towards one super conference, and it seems that it is now coming to fruition. Powerful question. There's still more to come on that.
Absolutely, man. Is there anything else? It looks like we're in overtime here. Is there anything else that you would like to say or you would like to report on before we close out here?
No, not really. Just I'd like to give a shout out to Game Day Recruits, what we do for young men. We help, we get kids scholarships, not only at the universities, but we help scholarship them individually as well. We train them. We take them through the recruiting process. We help them to navigate the recruiting process with real-time information. I like to shout Game Day Recruits out, my colleagues, and and of course my wife. I can't, and my family. I got to shout them out, or else I'll be on the stand when I get home tonight.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So make sure everybody you check out the Draft Bible Tailgate Show tomorrow. My guy Rick Saratelli will be covering, the owner, boss man himself will be covering it for me. Because my game is at 11, it'll be difficult to do the live show. So I'll be back next week to do the show, and possibly have Deon and Jacquie back again for a battling preview for the for the game that night, and it's going to be in Chapel Hill. So if there's anything else from you, anybody else, go ahead and put your comments in. We'll get back with you, but we love you guys for hanging out with us. Enjoy. Hey, what's going on? There's Nikki. Hey, there she is.
You see? I told you.
I see. Look, pull no punches. She threw it out there. But we thank you guys. We love you fans for sticking with us and hanging out with us. Just hang out with us, man. The State of Football, NFL Draft Bible, Prospect Profits, a whole team here. Sam, the super producer in the back, doing a hell of a job, keeping us up and going. We just keep growing, keep getting bigger. Just make sure you tune in to us every week for all of our different brands of entertainment, and we'll just keep you educated and entertained. And like I said, NFL Draft Bible on Sports Illustrated. We will be back tomorrow, and I'll be back next Saturday. And of course, the State of Football. Make sure you check them out Monday through Friday. This has been Big Law, Deon Glover. We're out. Thank you, and have a great Saturday.